Hi, welcome to another exciting edition of Cambridge Inside Out. My name is Robert Winters.
And I'm Judy Nathans.
And today's June 21st.
First day of summer.
Is it the first full day of summer?
Full day of summer.
Right. Yesterday
Equinox,
was...
something about the... longest day?
Solstice.
Solstice.
Yeah.
Oh, not equinox, right?
Yeah.
But does it mean it's the longest day of the year? I think it
yes,
is.
the solstice is the longest day.
So it'll stay light out till what? 9? No.
Till evening.
Till evening. It actually gets lighter as we go along, but I don't quite understand all the...
You know, the one that's always confusing, I think, is when the earliest day, I should say, the earliest sunrise and the latest sunset do not necessarily coincide with the longest day, because it's kind of shifting along.
Well, that's the thing, because it shifts anyway, so, because there's days right in whatever. It's nice out.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Astronomy Inside Out.
Right. So
our new theme.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was where we are at the CCTV studios, just down the street today, on Massachusetts Avenue, down across from the MIT Museum.
Yes.
It was rather exciting.
I heard that on the news, and then
fire today.
On top of Random Hall.
Random Hall. It was a roof fire, and from my house over in mid-Cambridge, I looked out the window.
You could see smoke?
Yeah, I could. There were fire engines racing like mad, and I said, I wonder if I can see smoke. And usually you can. And I looked and I went, oh my gosh, I can see smoke.
Well.
And it was right in the direction of Central Square, and I immediately got excited and hopped on my bike, came down here.
So, you know, your lovely partner Renee informed me that that's under construction, and she thought it might be like the fire that happened at the Putnam School.
Yeah, there were people who were speculating there because it was up on the roof, and actually I saw some aerial photos of this gigantic fire on the roof.
So it is under construction then. It's no one's living there.
They were doing work. I don't know if people were living in the building. They may be, but it's also the time of year when a lot of people vacate. And MIT consolidates their students into fewer buildings.
But that whole hall, I think, is empty.
Yeah, I think that was empty for now.
So it could have been something to do with roofing systems.
Yeah. My friend and colleague Jolien, he was one of the people interviewing to be the new housemaster for Random Hall this fall. Oh. I don't think he got the job, and now he's probably saying, "Oh, good."
Well, no one. Well, like I said, we don't know until tomorrow.
I mean, I
think it was empty.
I was speaking with a friend of mine who's one of the property managers for Forest City, which owns the building that comes right up next door that they just finished constructing. Well, they're almost finished constructing. Right. So they were all kind of worried, but I don't believe there was any damage to the adjacent buildings. So. But it was pretty exciting.
Yeah. And it's still, they closed the street between that, still.
I think it's still closed.
I heard on the radio over an hour ago, and it's still closed. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. It's happening right now.
That's right, yeah. There's a fire happening right now. No. They got it under control very, very quickly. Yeah. So, we actually have a great fire department in the city of Cambridge.
We have great services
and
in the city.
I suppose it didn't hurt that the fire house is like 3 doors down, right?
Oh, that's true, but I bet they had more than one firehouse.
Actually, they called in quite a few because they were racing in from all over the city. I could hear them coming from all directions.
So it might have been maybe there was something.
One of the joys of living on Broadway is that it is the route that all the emergency vehicles will use most of the time. So we know what's happening. So anyway, that was exciting today. Yesterday, let's see, we were city counciling ourselves around. At least I was up there for a while today.
Well, I was watching it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was some interesting things happening. It wasn't always the most exciting, but some things that were kind of interesting. Actually, let me say a few things that are coming up here.
Yeah.
I have to confess, I left some of my joyous crypt notes here at home.
But he is an encyclopedic mind, so he knows. Plus, we have his website right here.
Yeah, so
you can follow along. Just go to Cambridge Civic Journal.
Come up with some things here. Actually, one thing we did mention last week, because we were showing some photos from a ribbon cutting from the first leg of the Grand Junction.
No, the Grand Junction, right. I was
Grand Junction path. So, and I think we were speculating or something about the Cambridge Common. I said, well, they should be having a ribbon cutting soon. Well, it's this
sure
Sunday.
Enough. I see that.
Yeah, it's this Sunday.
And what is that celebrating?
It's actually, I think we even have, if you scroll down in here, you'll see we actually have a bit of a flyer for it.
Oh, yeah, I think I saw that.
except for the playing field, which is now being turned into.
Okay.
So let's just sort of take a
do
quick
that
look
so
over
I can
here. I don't know if that's thoroughly visible. It should be okay. So the Cambridge Common has been undergoing some major reconstruction over the last couple of years. They took down some trees, planted some new trees, tried to restore some of the sort of more historical views, especially going towards the Civil War monument. And they did some reconfiguration of some of the bicycle infrastructure in the area to make things a little more convenient. And except for the fact that the baseball field is now covered over and is actually not going to come back as a baseball field, but I think as maybe a soccer field, I think. But
so some kind of field.
Yeah, some kind of field, but only after the grass has grown back, so it won't be available this year. But anyway, they're actually doing the ribbon cutting this Sunday, June 26th. 1 o'clock. So if anybody's around this weekend, you want to come on by, I think you might enjoy yourself there. These things tend to be kind of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Actually, another big event for those who are into socializing.
Dance.
That's right. It's going to be a wild time in Central Square this Friday night. This is the week of the annual city dance party.
Do you know when that started?
It was originally, I think, goes back to a little bit before the year 2000. I don't know if it was Kathy Bourne who originally floated the idea of doing it, but she may have been. So I would put it at the very, very late 90s is when they first started doing it. And initially it was a modest-sized crowd of people.
Locals.
Almost entirely, if not entirely local.
Now, I don't know, the last time I went late and people were parking. I think you mentioned this. People park cars on your neighborhood. And,
yeah.
And it's a lot of which is nice, but it's better to go, I think, early on when there's more families and seniors sitting out in front of the senior center.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. It's become too much.
Maybe because I fit in better with that crowd now.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So I mean, that's the only. I literally was crushed trying to find my daughter one day. So
I'll speaking frank. Well, actually, let me say it has always begun at approximately 7 p.m. and then would go to 11 p.m. This year they're extending it to midnight.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now, I'm going to admit, I have to say, I'm a little concerned about it because in the last few years, what I've watched is it's been pretty much closed off Massachusetts Avenue from Prospect Street up to maybe Bigelow or so.
Bigelow.
So it's not just in front of City Hall, it's a little bit more.
all along there.
And the people, even after 10 o'clock, the people were streaming in. It's like social...
Oh, it's totally crowded.
Yeah, social media has sort of caused this whole thing to explode.
It's like a big pop-up meetup or whatever.
So people are not only driving in, but the red line is just pouring people in.
They're driving in and then parking in lots of spaces where they're probably
that as well, and now it'll go till midnight, and
I didn't realize that.
There does come a point, and I'm sure the Cambridge police have things covered, and and they've got.
Especially given what the events of in Florida.
I mean, we've had some unfortunate events even here in Central Square. So I'm starting to get a little worried that it's getting a little out of hand, but I don't want to dissuade people. But it is sort of
go early.
Fun. Go early,
because people that are really, I think the younger people, they want to go at night anyway. So
there's usually some pretty spectacular light shows that they display on City Hall.
When it starts
My
to
friend
get dark.
Holly Gettings is the lighting person, and she puts on a really great show. So,
and I think they'll probably play a lot of Prince. Is my guess.
Good idea, actually.
They will, because I remember the time I went when Michael Jackson had died, closer to the event, and it was wonderful. So that was kind of nice. So I bet they'll do that.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's some things coming up. We've got a few public meetings of consequence. I certainly have gone through.
There's a lot of committee. I listened to the leaf blower one today.
Oh, you did?
Well, I didn't. It was online, and I thought, oh, well, I'm doing something else. And boy,
I'm not trying to dismiss the notion of how annoying leaf blowers can be.
They really are. But they're also toxic, I guess. The ones that generate oil or.
But there comes a point when sort of the civic discussion kind of revolves around leaf blowers, A-frame signs placed in front of on sidewalks in front
of
restaurants.
Leaf blowers, though, I think involve noise pollution. There were a lot of people. You like them?
No, I don't like them at all.
I mean, are they necessary?
I'm a rake man through and through.
Yeah, I don't think they're necessary.
No, I don't think they're necessary either. But
I don't know.
Anyway, not my issue.
What other meeting? Right, there's a lot of public meetings.
There's actually
What
one
else?
coming up. Oh my gosh!
You don't have it here, though, do you?
I don't have them all
We'd have
here.
to go to the city council
I had it in
agenda.
my little secret folder that I left home and sitting on my front table right now. There's this thing called the Georgetown University Prize.
I wrote that down in my phone.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
that's
so,
next week, I think.
Yeah, so there's a gathering of sorts of people.
Yes,
We got an invite to go to some workshop that they're doing at the City Hall Annex. Plus, there's also a meeting, I think, of the Health and Environment Committee with Councilor Devereaux.
Yeah.
That's specifically that topic as well.
On the green,
On the Georgetown Prize.
I didn't see that. I just saw.
So anyway, there's a workshop on all of Cambridge's sort of
All right, I didn't put it in.
energy-related and sustainability efforts over the last few
I
years.
think it is neat. But if you go to the City Hall, well, you can go to the Cambridge Civic Journal, of course, and then hit agenda, but also the City Council calendar will have all this.
Yeah, they're all sort of coming up. So anyway, definitely a good time. It wasn't not as exciting as the meeting we went to last week about driverless cars, which I've been sort of
Still
passing on that
thinking about
information
that.
to people all week long, and they've been going, "What?
Yeah,
What are you
seriously?
joking?"
Cambridge, right?
Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of interesting.
All right, so let's see. Well, in terms of last night, what else was?
Well, some interesting thing,
Yeah.
it's, there are some times when you go up to the Sullivan Chamber on a given Monday night for city council meetings where it's just like watching grass grow. It's slow, boring.
Or paint dry, is that the other one?
Watching paint dry.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, there's a meeting or two where there's some kind of interesting or even controversial things. Or there's some things that are, esoterica that only lunatics like me get interested in.
Yes.
But one topic that's been coming up at, actually, to be honest, it's been coming up even in some of the Envision Cambridge meetings. It's come up on various meetings when they were having a discussion about rezoning for the Mass and Main development across the street from here at the old Quest Diagnostic site. Is this phenomenon that's been happening the last few years, which is, I guess, sort of, we could generically or maybe specifically call it the Airbnb phenomenon?
Shared economy.
Yeah, it's sort of one aspect of the shared economy where...
It's like do-it-yourself lodging, transportation, you name it.
Yeah, I think that
You don't have to own it.
Right, but the acceptable part of the Airbnb phenomenon, I think pretty much universally acceptable, is the notion of a person who lives in a house most of the time and they want to
they're not going to vacate it.
Right, they want to rent a room, or maybe if they're going away for a week, they make their home available through Airbnb as essentially
it's like
sort of
single residence.
Short-term rental.
Right.
Right? Now some people, I'm sure, are just going to be opposed to that on principle, but I think most people at least would live with that. The problem, and I've certainly seen this in some buildings that were built some years ago that were residential buildings in Central Square area, where in fact, there was advertised, I shouldn't say advertised, but as part of the understanding when the building was being built, was that they were going to be providing, X number of units of housing. The presumption being that, people who will actually live there. Well, I know some buildings, actually, everybody I know seems to know some buildings where some of those apartments aren't really apartments, they are permanent Airbnbs, so they're being operated as hotels.
Well, are they called as Airbnbs, or are they called short-term rentals, like through Harvard or somebody?
When it comes to the point where they're only being rented as short-term rentals through an agency like Airbnb,
well, like an agency, it's not Airbnb though. See, I think there's differences. There's always been short-term rentals.
Right, but there comes a point where you have to sort of, and this was part of this communication to the city council last night, as well as a city council order calling for a committee to meet to start looking into the issue of short-term rentals.
Right.
So the issue is that at what point does a residential unit start to get dangerously close to being a hotel use?
Right. Well, again, it depends on who's owning it, what it was originally zoned for, if it was a commercial firm that owned it. I think they're concerned about private owners converting their own places. They might buy a condo specifically for that purpose.
I know of a building, or at least
so if
there's one neighborhood leader from a known organization, gave an example of a building, I believe,
Was this in public comment they did?
No, well, I don't know if it was or wasn't, but I saw it on an email message today.
Oh, okay.
A building on Essex Street, which I think was a triple-decker that was bought, spruced up, and is being used exclusively
That's what
Airbnb.
they're talking about. That to me,
Yeah.
you're right.
No, so if you're doing something like
Yes,
that, you're
that's different.
essentially planting a hotel onto
Right,
residential
and not paying
streets.
hotel taxes and
Right.
not doing all that, which is what I think that was the
Right.
argument. If you're going to do that, you're coming under a different use.
Yes.
Okay, but
and-
not the guy, I mean, I heard the guy who said, I rent out this extra room, and people said, that's fine, people
Yeah.
need extra income, that's different.
I don't think anybody's
Right.
particularly bothered by that
Yeah.
kind of use, but it's really sort of the wholesale.
Sure.
I mean, there was some incidents in New York City of people who were.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I think one of my favorites was
Yeah.
if a person who had they still have rent control. I don't know if it's vacancy decontrol or whatever in New York.
It's vacancy decontrol.
But there's a person who has a controlled apartment in New York City, paying, bottom dollar
Yeah.
for the rental, and then uses it pretty much exclusively to rent it out to people via Airbnb, and
Yeah.
is probably taking in more money
Absolutely,
through the
yeah.
Airbnb rentals than she paid in rent.
Yeah, well, under the old rent control, people kept their apartments and moved out to the suburbs and rented them to people, so in some ways,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, I know.
people are always going to milk the system.
I know it.
Trump
but-
does,
Right.
we all can do it.
Trump who? Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was a topic of discussion,
And will continue to be, because it's
Yeah.
not, it covers, Uber, it covers, there's
yeah,
a certain
I
kind
have
of.
to give a bit of a shout out to
Yeah.
Craig Kelly's aide Will, who,
Oh, yeah, he's the one that did the research.
who actually
for this,
did a
yeah.
real knockout job on the research to sort of look up, get
Yeah.
some sort of actual quantification of what's
Is that
happening.
available, those notes? I mean,
Yeah, they're actually.
where are they available?
They were
I saw
actually
the order, but
they were part of the city council package. So actually, they're even linked up on
okay.
my site. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So I think he did a great job, and everybody was aware of it. So I mean, some of the research assistants, so-called research assistants, aren't really doing much in the way of research, but he's doing a great job. So credit goes to him for that.
They get paid well,
Yeah.
I think, for what they're doing.
Actually, another thing that came up with I wouldn't call it yet a resolution or anything, was I think a week ago there were a couple of elections related city council orders
Your orders,
filed.
yeah.
One was on
Early voting proposal.
Yeah, I think that's kind of something that's been evolving over time, was getting, and I think the election commission is almost ready to give a report back
Oh, good.
on.
Was it referred to them?
Yeah, so what they plan to do in terms of meeting the state mandate for early voting. So I'm not sure, I think I heard it, but it may be that they want to do 4 sites for probably the full 11 days. I don't know what full amount of the day.
So when you say the state, is that something that the state, are we talking about municipal elections or
There was
state
part of
elections?
a state, Sal Domenico telling me they passed some laws, some election reform laws for Cambridge, not Cambridge, excuse me, for the state of Massachusetts,
Right.
Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
Okay,
that included things like early registration, but not early,
Okay.
you still have to be 18 to vote, actually.
right.
A few other things, but one was actually liberalizing the process of absentee voting and providing greater opportunity for early voting, so people
Okay.
can vote if they were
So that would
anticipating
apply
not
to
being
all
voting.
municipalities?
It actually does not apply to municipal elections.
Oh.
I learned that.
Oh, okay.
It applies only to state elections.
Well, that makes sense, yeah, okay.
So
what would
how to
this order be
implement it.
then? How does this order then, is this for
Well,
our elections?
For the early
or-
voting will not be in effect for the September primary, but it will be in effect for the November election. And it
Okay.
will involve, I think, 11 days or close to it at 4 locations for a full day. By full day, full working days, essentially like, I think it's like 9 to 5. I don't know if they allowed for
Okay,
evening hours.
so you're saying that's a statewide thing, not just?
It's a state
it didn't-
mandate that requires.
Okay, so
that
it
you
didn't just
provide
come
for
from
it.
our council?
Right, I don't think the state specifically
Alright.
said you must do this number of days and you must have this many sites, but
So where did the 11 days come from?
I think that there is the full period is 11 days.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It was a prior iteration of the city council order that called for 11 days, and that might be where it first got floated.
Okay.
The absurdity of the order was that they give an estimate that was given by the group Common Cause, saying operating this for a full day for a site will only cost about $300-something. The actual cost, by all accounts, will be probably in excess of $1,000 per site for 11 days. And so the actual total cost of implementing early voting is actually not going to be cheap. Now, some people say, well, it's voting, it's democracy, it's absolutely essential that people vote. But, if 10 people show up in a full day and that's it, and basically people are just sitting around all day.
Well, maybe they have to try it to see what happens.
Well, yeah, I mean,
can you go back and say, okay, we're going to shorten this, or?
Yeah, I mean, you're not locked into it.
Maybe they have to try it.
Yeah, so they'll try one thing here, and then if it ends up being crowded, they could grow it. Or if more than likely it ends up not being particularly crowded, maybe they'll shorten it in the future. But so anyway, that was one of the election-related matters, and there's the official.
So where does that
response.
stand? Is that then become
the election commission
or?
has done I think a proposal
so they're going to
ready,
review that?
but it did not arrive in the city council package this week. It might arrive this coming week. I'm not sure of the timing.
And if it doesn't, and the city council doesn't meet, how do those things get done?
It doesn't require city council action at all. Basically, an order comes back, says to the manager, have the election commission look into this. The moment the election commission agrees to do something, a change, they don't have to get any permission from the city council.
So what does the city council do? Discuss things? I mean, or promote their own orders? Something?
A quiz question. This is on the.
Well,
how much do I know the planning charter?
They seem to be commenting on things that are already going to happen but then they can make things happen too.
They can. Some people
propose new orders.
It's probably an unfair phrase, but they call this a weak council. Or actually, they call it a weak mayor system.
Weak mayor, strong city manager.
City manager.
Right.
I don't know whether there's any sort of value assigned to the city council in this. Yeah. But ultimately, the job of a city council, number one job, is to hire a city manager to carry out their will.
Like overseers.
Yeah.
In a way.
But I always like to think the city councilors are sort of idea generators.
They get paid a lot more than to be just idea generators. So.
Well, that's another discussion.
Well, that's another, right. So now we're getting out of the thing here because.
But what I was saying is that they also are they're like intake. They hear from constituents.
Yeah, they serve their constituents, and a lot of them really do a great job at that.
So they craft some sort of idea.
Right.
They have no authority to enact it. In fact, it is a felony for them to lean on a city staff person say, do this. That's actually a felony.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they could get in prison.
Has someone gotten in trouble for that?
They've been threatened, but not lately. The way it's supposed to work is you bring it to the city council, and you and your colleagues amass at least 5 votes, a majority vote, all it takes, to pass an order. And the order says, okay, we the body, not me the councilor, but we the body want you to do this. Now, Mr. Manager, if it's feasible and advisable. Now, does that make the manager, oblige the manager, you must do that?
I see.
In a sense, no. I mean, if they pass an ordinance, then they have to carry out an ordinance. Right.
But those orders that I see when you look at them, the whereas and all that, when do those get done?
Well, they get sort of assembled one week. They show up on the council agenda. If they pass it,
those? The staff?
It's a variety of ways. Sometimes it's
so they're obviously meeting in between meetings.
Well, sometimes more often than not, it's a single counselor or a single counselor and their personal aide will draft an order.
So they draft the order in like a template.
And they will. Current practice now is they might get some co-sponsors. Though
Which is encouraged.
And sometimes the co-sponsor might influence the writing a bit.
Okay.
Right? So, but you can't, they will not anymore have more than 4 sponsors total.
Oh, they're
because
not?
It is implied then that they were discussing it not outside of an open meeting. So you'll get that. But the idea is whether it's 2, 3, 4 or many of them, it's not anything until they vote it. And when they vote a city council order, it's basically saying, Mr. Manager, this is the policy we want you to execute.
Okay, and then he comes back with his policy recommendation? Is that?
Well, he says, well, here's 100 reasons to Sunday for why this is a crazy idea.
But he may not say that right away. He'll come back.
Not, yeah.
He has to study it, maybe.
Generally speaking, the manager will usually say, I don't comment on orders on first glance. You got to.
But is that the first time he sees it, or she?
Yes.
Will see it? Okay, all right.
Well, we might have looked at it before the meeting, but sure. So the manager's not absolutely obliged to carry out these things, but
I see.
But if a manager keeps saying no after a majority of councilors say, please do this, at some point they say, Mr. Manager, you work for us. You can't continue to say no.
So that's when there's a majority of the councilors that want something.
Right. So if the manager is obstinate,
can you give me an example in the past 10 years or whatever that's happened? For when the manager
doesn't act?
Right.
Oh, I'd have to think about it, but I could actually give you a bunch of examples.
Okay, well, that would be an interesting show at some point.
Yeah.
During the times when they're
like city council orders that never went nowhere, no how, right?
Well, there's also then the backlash against the city manager system and all that.
But I have to say, you have to look at this in perspective, because sometimes the councilors will pass an order saying, really, we want this. Not really because they want this, but because it's sort of part of making a statement. And if the manager doesn't implement it, that's fine. It'll still show up in their political literature, and they said, see how much I care about.
It shows that they're doing their job.
Yeah. So
you talk to me, I talk to them. They don't like it, but look, I did this.
Yeah, so and more often than not, if the manager and staff come back and say what you're asking for is not a good, it's either too expensive or we have a better idea. That's actually what sometimes happens.
Right, which is maybe the good result of it.
Right.
Like, okay.
Yeah, staff comes back and says, well, we understand what it is you want. We completely read your policy, but here's a much better way to implement it, and so this is what we would propose to do. And that actually happens with great frequency. In fact, even the Envision Cambridge process is a fine example of that. They said, we've got have to have a master plan, and then staff came back with a whole process, which is very different than what was. I think it's actually working out pretty well. So.
All right, so we're going to cut down this segment.
Take a break, and I guess we'll be back in a few minutes with Cambridge Inside Out.